Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 25. So, in last episode, we had the offseason, and we're ready to start up year number 10, which should hopefully be an interesting year for this team. Obviously, last year we missed the playoffs after we made the playoffs, which was kind of a bummer. But we do have a pretty good looking roster, I think, on paper by comparison this year, because our defensive core is starting to come together. Our goaltending is also improving a bit, but you can see the offensive core is the main thing that I'm very excited for, because we have Mark Daigg jumping to the NHL, which means we pretty much have a legit actual offensive core for the most part. The only guy that I wouldn't say is an NHLer is Cam Mallory, but he's a 77, almost a depth forward, so it's not really that bad of a scenario. And then on the defensive side of things, you can see our defensive core is starting to come together a bit. We almost have a legit top four. And then our top six pairing, still a little bit on the weaker end of things, but obviously it should get better as the years go on. And then the goaltending, we have Spezza in net as an 83 overall, and Emiliano Dalcoli will be the backup again this season because he had a great year last year. So very excited to see what this team's able to do. We do have Pavel Malkin technically as a scratch, which I should probably send him to the AHL so he could get at least some playing time. But the thing is, if I send him to the AHL, he probably won't even be getting playing time down there either, just because we have a lot of young prospects in the lineup down there. So I probably will not actually send him down. We'll probably just keep him in the NHL team. But this means that Pavel Malkin probably will be on his last legs here in Albuquerque, unfortunately, which kind of sucks because he was a decent player for us for a few years with a couple 20-goal seasons. But likely his time here is going to run a little bit short, which kind of sucks. But very excited still for the season because we do have a bit of a different top line in the last few years. We have Rick Kim jumping to the top line. Stubbits will be playing on the second line with Bogosian and Del Monte. We have Doig on the third line with Steen and Capaduca, and then Camilleri, Peterson, and Daigg. So yeah, excited for the season just to see what our team's able to do, but hopefully we get some good performances. Hopefully Mark Daigg has a good rookie season. I don't expect him to really score a ton of goals in his rookie season, but if he plays at least good defensively, blocks a lot of shots, throws a lot of hits, that type of thing, then I'll really like that. Like, as a grinder, he actually has some pretty interesting attributes. Like, his shot blocking is really good for a forward. His stick checking is great for a forward, too. He's got the body checking. Like, he should definitely act like a grinder, which is really, really nice because that's something we didn't actually have in our lineup. So it gives us a bit more size going into the season. But anyways, before we get into simulating year number 10, let's get in your guys' comments and see what you guys have to say about last episode. And then I will probably do some season goals and cut that obviously out of the episode. And then we'll probably start up the year 10 simulation after that. So the first comment is from Sanarataku. It says, Malak could be a future second-line scoring winger. Keep the guy with the A grades on special teams as head coach and see where you go from there. So, yeah, Malak, who we drafted, is an intriguing prospect. We did grab ourselves a couple low-elite prospects. We also grabbed a medium elite goalie in the draft, so I'm excited to see how those guys end up developing. But yeah, Malak is going to be an interesting player. As you can see, low elite 64 at 18, which is a pretty solid overall to start at. And yeah, hopefully he could become a future top 6 guy for us down the road when we start to actually lose players in our top 6, of course. So yeah, just excited to see how he develops. He's also a really short little dude, 5'8", 176. So maybe he develops to being kind of like a Martin St. Louis idea. I honestly don't know, but we'll see how this guy develops. And yeah, hopefully he becomes a great player for that top 6. Now, he was also mentioning about keeping the guy with the A grades on special teams as our head coach, which I believe we already do have that set up like that. Let me just double check though, because we did hire some new coaches in the last episode as well. So it was Wharton. Yeah, not Wharton, Riddle. See, Riddle has an A+ on power play and penalty kill, so that's why he's going to be our current head coach. And then Wharton, who was our head coach for the last few years, is now demoted to the associate coach, I guess that is, right? Yeah, the associate. Then we have Baines as an assistant and our goalie coach in Tadachek. So our coaching staff, I think, is a bit stronger than it has been in the past. We don't actually have an AHL associate coach, which maybe we should try and find one, but I don't know if it's something that's necessary. I might just see how this team simulates still, but yeah, I think it's going to be a good year for hopefully the NHL, and hopefully the AHL, like I said, gets some good growth down there and also performs relatively well. Like, it would be nice if they can make the playoffs as well. And the last and final comment is from Michael Dose, who says, anyone else is waiting in video for the cats to start meowing loud because he didn't feed them on their time? LOL. And normally the cats don't meow like crazy if my door is closed. They do if obviously I go downstairs. They all of a sudden start meowing like crazy. But yeah, it's kind of funny. They don't make noise until usually I open the door. So it's good that they at least let me record and get my video recorded first before they actually get a little bit antsy for their food. But anyways, now that that is done, I think we are pretty much ready to jump to season goals. So I'll do this now quickly, and then I'll see you guys back up here in a second. Okay, guys, so we gave all the off-season goals, or regular season goals, I should say, to all of our players. So all our NHL team is done. Pretty much the same goals as usual, like Ristolainen going for another Selke, that type of thing. AHL, I gave a couple of them out, not to everybody, but I gave one to, like, Heatley. I gave one to, who else was it? Cashman. Like, the guys with potential, Giunta. The other guys that don't have really much potential, I don't think it's as important to. Maybe they just need some natural growth and not based on how good they do during the season. So didn't focus too much on the AHL, but obviously the NHL got all the attention. Hopefully a lot of these guys could reach their goals. Zelina was assist related. Eventually I might try and see if he could win a Norris, but I think right now the league is still a bit too dense with good defensemen, so I would prefer to probably wait before giving him a goal of winning a Norris. But I think we're ready to start up the season simulation and see how good this team does. Honestly, I'm hoping that we make the playoffs, but I'm not too sure if that's in the realm of possibility or not. I'm going to go out and guess that we're going to hit over 40 wins at least this season, though, because we have a bit of a different coaching staff and also because we are a bit stronger in most of our areas. So let's see what our head coach Travis Riddle has to say about our team, because I am curious on his thoughts on the team right now this season. What does he say? Looking at his roster on paper, it's good enough to make the playoffs this season. That is my goal for the team. So he thinks we can make the playoffs. Last year, our head coach also thought that we were going to make the playoffs, but we didn't. So honestly, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but hopefully Riddle can coach this team into being a playoff team. So I'm excited to see what we could do. You guys could drop your predictions down below on what you guys think we're going to get for wins this season. I think at least 40 wins is doable. 45 might be pushing it a bit, but I wouldn't mind seeing us get to 45, maybe even 48 wins. I don't think it's going to happen, though, because the defense is still a work in progress. Goaltending is, too. Like, Spezza is literally only going into his second season, so we can't put too much pressure on the guy to necessarily carry us to a playoff spot, but I'm hoping at least the goaltending simulates a bit better. The defense, obviously, as well. And then hopefully we get good depth scoring in our lineup. And hopefully some guys step up out of nowhere. Like hopefully Rick Him has a big second season in the NHL. So let's go through the preseason, see how we do during the preseason. And then obviously we'll get to the regular season relatively quick. But so far it's a little bit of an inconsistent preseason, but that's okay because obviously that doesn't impact the regular season whatsoever. As we go 3-2-2. Actually, we have one more game left. I didn't even realize. Against Dallas still in the preseason. It's kind of crazy when you have that much games in the preseason to play. Because we literally get, I guess, 8 preseason games, which is a lot to kind of put on our team right before the start of the regular season, but I'll take it. So we're actually going to finish the preseason with a 4-2-2 record, and the player that led our team in points during the preseason was Staubitz with 12 points. Nice. 12 points in 8 games. That's actually pretty impressive for the captain. Hopefully he has a big year. Obviously he's going to be playing on a different line this year, so that's going to be intriguing to see how he performs next to Bogosian, because obviously that second line hasn't been like that in the past. In the past it was like Kim on that second line, it was Capaduca at one point on that second line, so we are starting to build up much better depth, I would say, going into the season. Looks like Bogosian also had a pretty good preseason. If we go here, actually not the game logs, what am I doing here? Going to preseason stats, he also had 7 points in 8 games, so that second line might have actually simulated quite well. Even Del Monte had 7 points in 8 games, so I'm really hoping that second line could give us some good depth scoring behind that top line. So obviously if we don't get good production during the regular season from one of those lines, I could always make an adjustment, but at this point we don't really care about adjusting too much. So anyways, let's continue to simulate. Let's get to the start of the regular season, see how this team does. We'll go 1 month or so at a time just to see how our team does over that span, but I think this could be a year we make it back to the playoffs, but I'm obviously not too sure on how good of a team it's going to be. If we do make the playoffs, or if we miss the playoffs, are we going to just simulate like what we did last year? We need to be definitely a little bit more consistent with our play for sure. Okay, sorry about that. Got interrupted by some leaf blowers. But anyways, I almost forgot to take a look at the new guys on our team because that's one thing I know you guys want me to take a look at from now on. So let's take a look at what Dag looks like on the roster because I believe he's the only one that is new to the team, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check. We've seen Peterson last year. Yeah, I literally think the only one we have to take a look at is Mark Dag, who's going to be making his debut at 22 years old. Yeah, he's the only one, I think. Because the defensive core is the exact same as last year as well. So let's take a look at the youngster in Mark Dag, and then we'll start actually simulating. I meant to actually take a look at this a little bit earlier, but almost forgot about it. So here's what Mark Dag looks like. He is the grinder extraordinaire, hopefully. He looks like a grinder extraordinaire, too. He's got the lamb chops. Yeah, that's definitely a guy that's a grinder, for sure. Looks like he's an old school kind of grinder. Like he looks like he could have been a player back in like the 1980s or 70s or something like that. I'm curious on how much Pelling minutes he's gonna pick up like in his first season. Like drop a prediction as well on how much Pelling minutes you think he picks up in his first season, guys. I'm gonna guess he's going to be over 100 in his first season, but I honestly don't know how he simulates, so could be completely wrong with that, but I'm going to guess over 100 in his first season. He could only get like 80. He might not get hardly anything as a grinder, but I feel like grinders usually simulate more aggressive than enforcers do in this game. All right, let's go 1 month at a time. See how we do in our first month of action. Hopefully get off to a better start than we did last year. Okay, a little bit inconsistent to start, but that's okay. Just got to get used to playing some games again here. Looks like we're playing a bit better defensively early on in the season, which is a good sign, but there's 2 bad games in a row, of course, after I said that. Ooh, then a really bad game against the Habs. Game against LA is a win, okay. And Tampa's a loss. 3-5-2 in our first 10 games. I'm not too sure if I really like that too much. We've had a couple bad defensive efforts in a row, too. Like that win 5-4 is an okay effort, but 7-2 loss there, a 5-2 loss there, a 5-1 loss, and a 4-2 loss. Every other game was really close, though, so we could be definitely above 500 at this point, but we haven't been. A little bit worried on that, but let's continue to simulate. Obviously, we might all of a sudden just completely turn it on out of nowhere, so let's see what happens. There's their first 2 games of the month is a win. Good. We do lose that one, unfortunately, though. Can't go on a 3-game winning streak, but we do win 3 of our first 4 games here in November. There's a win, and Bill Camilleri has to talk to us about changing over to right wing or getting that as the secondary position. Oh, wow. Oh, damn, that's not great. I almost didn't even realize that was a thing, though. I've been studying the position, but I don't feel like it's a good fit for my game anywhere. I feel best in my current position right now. Well, I did move Yordi over to a right wing. So, damn. That sucks. So, Camilleri does not want to be playing on the right wing side of things. You know, let's just go end conversation. I'm still going to play him as a right winger because we were trying to get him to change over to right wing. But next season, we might have to use him as a left winger. And if he can't fit into our lineup, we might have to play somebody else instead in that position. But that kind of sucks. I was expecting him to actually fit that position well, be considering he's a left winger already. Right wing's not much different. As a person that plays floor hockey, it's not really that much different. Changing wings, like, you could shoot on your opposite hand in this a bit, so I don't know. It's kind of weird that he doesn't want to change over, but I'm okay with it, I guess. 11-10-3 in our first 24 games. Not the best, but we are obviously with a lot of teams that are close to us in the division. We have played the most amount of games in the division, actually, but we are only like a point back of some playoff teams, so we're hanging around, but obviously we need to get off to a good start during one of these months coming up, because obviously if we continue to fall off, that's not going to be great for our playoff chances. I don't know if we necessarily need to be a playoff team this year or what, but obviously it would be nice to get back into the postseason. But if we have another bad pick, that might be a good idea just to continue building up like that defensive core if the draft looks like that. So let's see how we do in December. See if we could have a better month here and get ourselves into a playoff spot potentially, like right now. See, we're inconsistent. 2 wins in a row, then 2 losses in a row. And then we're going to get 2 wins in a row. So it's a little bit inconsistent, but it's to be expected kind of with this team. There's 3 wins in a row. Very good offense and defense in those 3 games. But then, of course, afterwards, we're going to go on a losing streak. ended with the Islanders. We are still winning more than we're losing right now, but definitely showing that we're still a young team. 19, 15, and 3. That's not too bad. It has us outside the playoffs still by 2 points. We do still have 2 more games played than any other team in our division, pretty much. We're still hanging around, though, so that's at least good, because if we have a really good second half of the season, we could definitely make it into the postseason, but hopefully we just don't all of a sudden fall off too much. It might be too tough of a division for us this season, but we'll definitely continue to push, hopefully, to get into the postseason. So let's go another month here in January, see what we could do here. Considering it's year number 10, we would like to make the playoffs in a way, just because year 10 is kind of like a milestone year, but like I said, it's not the end of the world if it does happen or not. There's 2 wins in a row, okay. Buffalo, there's another good win. We're scoring a lot of goals in some of these games, so I'm expecting the offense to be relatively solid with this team, but looks like we're having trouble keeping the puck out of the net sometimes too. And definitely still showing that inconsistency to start off this new year. Game against Boston is a win, okay. Winnipeg, we lose to Winnipeg, even though they were not that great of a team. That's not good. Florida, we lose to them. The Rangers, we lose to them, and we lose to the Avs, and we lost in overtime to St. Louis. That's a really bad stretch for this team. 24, 23, and 4. We have now dropped down to second worst in the Central Division. We are still 6 points back of a playoff spot, but right now we have more games played than any other team in this division, which is not good. I think there's a realistic chance we might miss the playoffs again, because that's a lot of regulation losses to have at this point in time. Now, we could still all of a sudden go on a torrential pace, win 10-plus games in a row, but right now, I don't know if this team's going to be a playoff team, which is not great. We might have to still look for new coaches in the offseason and all that stuff, or readjust our team, get some better players in the draft, but I don't really know what the problem is right now. I think it's probably keeping the puck out of the net. Like, the defense and the goaltending is still a little bit on the questionable side of things. So that's probably why we're losing games, my guess. As we are 25, 25, and 5. Kind of a weird record. Okay. Game against New Jersey is 7-4 win. Like, we have some really good games this season, but we're also having some really bad ones too. Oh, man. Now we've fallen below 500. Yeah, we're definitely not making the playoffs at this rate if we're going to fall below 500. Definitely another disappointing season, it seems like, so far from this team in terms of trying to make it back to the playoffs again. But maybe another lottery pick is what we need. And we definitely need to look for maybe even a stronger coach in the offseason. Because this current head coach, even though he's got good special teams, I don't think he's working that well with us. 26, 30, and 5. We are now, we're way far back, actually. Because the last playoff spot has 72 points. We're on 57. Yeah, I don't think we're going to make the playoffs unless we lose or win every single game down the stretch, pretty much. But I doubt that's going to happen. We do have 3 games against Utah the rest of the season, which is interesting because they are the team that's in the last wildcard spot. So maybe if we beat them a couple times and beat a lot of other teams, we can make it. But I am definitely not strongly believing this team's going to make it back this year. Hopefully, obviously, we get back to it at some point. But for right now, I don't think it's a super important thing. But would have been nice, at least for year 10, to make it back. Game against LA, we win that one. Let's just go past the trade deadline, and then we will take a look at what trades happen around the league this season. I will obviously not take a look at the player stat leaders because I'm just want to close my eyes and not look at that. So let's just go quickly over to here. Let me not look at who's leading our team in points. Let me block out half the screen with my face. Go up to activity feed. There you go. Let's see what trades happened in 2034, if there's anything we recognize. We're getting to the point where there's a lot of generated guys, though. Emil Andre to Winnipeg. All right. Justin Barron to Chicago with Hendrix Lapierre. Barrett Hayton to Dallas from Utah. That's a pretty big one. I'm surprised Utah offloaded him considering they're in the last wildcard spot. Guess they think they're going to fall off. Oh, wow. Nikita Kucherov got dealt from Tampa to New Jersey. I wonder how Sanrataku's going to like that. God damn, that's a pretty big trade. I know he's probably dropped off a lot by this year, I would assume. But still, that's a pretty big player for New Jersey to acquire at a deadline. Emil Yarventi to Colorado. Haminaho to Calgary. Not a lot of big names anymore in this. Morgan Frost to St. Louis. Ryan McLeod to Boston. Jack Drury and Ryan Johnson to Chicago. Anything else? Kyle Connor got dealt back to Winnipeg. I guess he was away from Winnipeg for a little bit with Dorofaev. Interesting. And then Niemela to Minnesota with Eric Chernak. Okay. Close my eyes again here. Got to just press X here so I can go right to the calendar. Didn't see who was leading us in points, which is good because that I always like to find out right when we get to the end of the season. Let's continue to simulate and see what this team is going to do down the rest of the stretch. But kind of I hope now at this point, since we're going to not make the playoffs, to lose a lot more games just so we get a really good pick potentially this year. But obviously that's going to hurt us in terms of the salary cap on this team a little bit down the road. But definitely a little bit of a disappointing year again. But I think once we find ourselves some really good coaches, we'll obviously get back to the playoffs again. But we got to be very careful because obviously some of these players that are on our roster, their contracts will come to an end in the next 4 seasons or less. Like Staubitz's contract comes to an end relatively soon. So we got to be careful that we don't we do make it back to the playoffs before his contract ends. Basically, that's my goal at least. 8-7 overtime loss. Damn, man, that would suck to lose 8-7 in overtime. Damn. Well, at least that's a good offensive performance. But we're on 31 wins, so we're not going to definitely hit 40 wins this season, which kind of sucks as well. But I'm just hoping at least for some good underlining stats with players' stats and all that stuff. 7-6 overtime loss. Damn, we're losing some high-scoring games in overtime. We do beat Ottawa 4-1. We lose to Buffalo. We got a total of 6 more games left this season. So, yeah, we're not even going to hit 40 wins this year. Let's see if we end the season off strong or if we're just going to continue to lose more games. It's kind of weird, though, because we've simulated better with worse goaltending before. But our defensive core is also, I guess, just not doing strong enough. There's 2 wins in a row. Come on, guys. Just don't cheat ourselves out of a really good pick, though, here down the stretch. Because at this point, we want to have a good player, potentially, right? Final few games, 2 more losses, and we're going to finish the season 35-40-7. Yikes. That's a pretty rough season for the team. We do finish second worst in the Central Division. Yeah, that Central Division was really tough this year, though, because one of the wildcard spots was at 104 points. The other one was 94 points, so unfortunately, we will not make the playoffs this year, but hopefully we have a good offseason that gets us enough growth. Hopefully some of those low leads jumped up a lot in overall. That would be fantastic because then it would solidify our team a little bit more. But let's take a look at some player stats and team stats for this season. So if we go on up here to Stat Central, let's take a look at this. Kolar's led us in points, so maybe a bit of a regression year for Ristolainen, unless he had 87 points as well, but Kolar's was the team leader in points. I mean, that's kind of an interesting one. Good to see Kolar's at least doing well. But in terms of the entire league, where do we finish? We're still above actually quite a bit of teams despite having a lackluster season. So that's not great. We finished 24th. I don't think we're going to have the best odds to get the first overall pick, but who knows, maybe the game will give us one. In terms of goals for per game, we were actually okay on the offensive side of things, which makes sense because we had some high-scoring games. But it was our goals against that's been a major problem. We were bottom 10 in terms of goals against. At least it's better than a lot of other teams, but that definitely needs to improve. Our special teams look like they were much better this year too, though, which is weird. We had actually a top 5 power play in the league, yet we didn't make the playoffs. So this head coach definitely good with special teams. I think that's why our special teams simulated well. Because our penalty kill, actually never mind, our penalty kill was pretty rough though. Even with the good penalty kill coach. So our power play was good. Our offensive was good during the regular season, but goals against and penalty kill wise, it needs a lot of work. So 5 shorthanded goals, 21, 15, and 5 on home ice. So we actually had an above 500 record on the home ice, but on the road we were pretty dreadful at 14, 25, and 2. So yeah, we definitely need to figure out the penalty kill and the defensive play a little bit more. In terms of player stats, this should be interesting to see who did what. Let's see what we got here. So starting off with our centers, Ristolainen had an 85-point season, 40 goals, so another good year from him. He was actually plus as well. Had 120 penalty minutes, so that might be actually a career high in PIMS for Ristolainen. Yeah, it definitely is, I think. Actually, he had 101 penalty minutes 1 year as well, but Yeah, that's definitely the most aggressive he's ever been. So that's interesting. He also had one shorthanded goal this year to put him at 9 in his career. He actually was getting less ice time this year, which is kind of interesting. His face-off percentage was really good again, so maybe he wins another Selke. A lot of hits this year as well, and a lot of takeaways. Not as much as he's used to, though, so I don't know if he's going to win it because his takeaways are so much less, but he had a really good face-off percentage, so will be interesting to see if he could win a 4th Selke for us. Aside from that, Rick Kim in his second season, 56 points, 26 goals. That's not too bad, but it's kind of a little bit low for a first-line guy. Would it have been better to put Staubitz on that top line? Maybe, but I'm not too sure. It is a better than his rookie season, but not too sure if that's the best performance from Rick Kim. It's good, but it could definitely be better, especially playing next to like Kolars and all that. Like those guys had 80 plus points, so he should definitely be around 80 points as well. Bogosian on 56 points, but minus 23. So Jameson Bogosian's offense is great, but he continues to struggle defensively on a good team. Or at least a good-looking forward group. So that's a pretty rough season for him. Good offense, like I said. Like that's a career high, I believe. But I do not like that plus-minus from Jameson. His face-off percentage is good still, but he's just not good defensively. Or his line mates maybe not are. Yeah, he's got 80 defensive awareness, so maybe that's why. We should probably try and get him to be better defensively in the offseason, but he is only signed for one more year. So is this the last year of Jameson Bogosian? Like, does he leave to free agency? Because technically, Stefan Steen could actually replace him in the top 6. He's got 47 points this year, which is pretty damn solid as an 82 overall. I would obviously try and bring Bogosian back because we probably have the cap space to bring him back, but it really depends on the term and all that he wants. Like, he might want a clause or something like that. Like I said, I really do not like his defensive play. 18 points for Mauricio Peterson. That's pretty good as well. He technically could be a third-line center, so letting go of Bogosian could make sense, but I'm not too sure if it's something I do. Left wing side of things, what do we got here? Kolars on 87 points, as we mentioned. That's a pretty good year for Matej Kolars. His best of his career since 2029. Solid offense, like it. We have Del Monte on only 43 points. Yeah, that second line was great during the preseason, but regular season, definitely not as good as I was anticipating. Yeah, I'm not too sure on some of these elite guys. Like, some of them should be a lot better. Like, 43 points is the lowest it's been for Del Monte in a while. So, yeah, maybe Staubitz just doesn't work well with them or something, but that's a really rough year for him. And he has a no-movement clause in his 4th year and all that. 23 goals from Capaduca without any power play time. Like, I like Capaduca's play more. Like, Capaduca might be better suited for a second line than Del Monte even, which is kind of weird. Camilleri on 15 goals. Like, Camilleri even outperformed, in my opinion, Del Monte. Like, 20 less points, yes, sure. But 15 goals. Like, I feel like Camilleri, for his ice time, did a lot better. Like, 7 minutes on ice time, and he had 15 goals. So, and then Mark Degg, the grinder, didn't really act like a grinder in terms of penalty minutes. 32 penalty minutes only. +1, 10 points in 82 games. He's only a 79, so he's not as good as it was looking, but how does his hits and stuff? He only averaged 8 minutes a game. He will get more ice time, obviously, next season, probably. But he can win faceoffs, so it looks like he throws over 100 hits a season, which is nice. Gives it us a little bit more physicality down there. Only blocked 11 shots. He has 87 shot blocking, but he only had 11 blocked shots. That's kind of weird. Giveaway takeaway ratio is not great either. He didn't have a single fight as a grinder. That's kind of weird. So I don't really know what is with our team in terms of simulation, but it's kind of strange. Right wing side of things, Staubitz on 63 points, 33 goals, minus 26. That's an okay year offensively from him. It's not as good, obviously, when he was on the top line, but his plus-minus was pretty bad as well. So I'm not too sure what I think about that second line. I might have to put Staubitz back to the top line next year again, but Staubitz has how many years left on his contract? Only one more year left on his no movement. That's an interesting one because we should try and make it back to the playoffs next year based on that. Because if we lose Staubitz, our team definitely starts to dwindle a little bit. We do have replacements, like technically Esteban Doig could be in the top 6, but I'm not too sure if he's that type of player. He's also picking up around 40 points. Like, a lot of these elite guys are just not simulating as good as I was hoping for, which kind of sucks. Damn. What about defense? Tuzolino on 53 points. That's pretty solid. A little bit lower than the last 2 years, though. And he was -6. How does that compare to last year? Yeah, that's definitely his worst season in quite a while. So our offense definitely slowed down quite a bit, despite even being better. I guess maybe it's better depth scoring, but I'm not too sure. Damn. I was hoping a little bit more out of Tuzolino, but that's still good, I guess. Narena on 49 points. That's pretty good. He was -15, which is not great. He's already now an exact top 4. But yeah, he's picking up good offensive numbers, but he's also a guy that does not play defense for the life of him. His defensive awareness is also only an 80 as an offensive defenseman, so yeah, we definitely need to put a really good defensive defenseman next to him potentially, or else we're going to give up a lot of goals, I guess. I don't really know. But obviously Narena's getting paid some big bucks right now, so he's at least performing like his money. Bell had 20 points and was +4 somehow, so shout out to Bell for being good defensively at least. Tulipov 18 points, -10. Still 78 overall. Bates 15 points, -11. And we have Whitfield on 14, -13. Yeah, I think eventually Whitfield's probably gone just because we have 3 offensive defensemen in the lineup, and that could be part of the problem, is we have too much guys that have offensively driven qualities. Like Bates is a 2-way as well, I believe. Tulipov's 2-way. We technically only have 1 DFD in the lineup. We definitely need more defensive defensemen, I think, if we want to be a better defensive team. Goaltending, Spezza had an 893, which is another rough year for him, and then Alcoli had a 903. But Spezza so far has been pretty lackluster in his first 2 seasons. Now, that is an improvement from last year in terms of save percentage, but his goals against got worse. His record's relatively the same, too. He did pick up another assist, but Trenton Spezza so far as an elite goalie hasn't been shocking me too much. He is up to an 86 overall, I didn't even realize, but yeah, he has not simulated like an elite goalie so far, and he is going to need a new contract this offseason, so not too sure on how much we pay that guy, at least going forward. Let's take a quick look at the AHL stats as well here briefly, before we take a look at the NHL stats around the league. Anybody with interesting numbers? Cashman had 51 points in his first season, is up to a 75. That's really impressive. Lambert had 43 points. He's also up to a 75, so those guys both getting close. Bure is also up to a 75, but he's not capping out much more. Peterson, is he getting growth? 65 at 22. What about Heatley? 19 points, up to a 68 at 22, so he's maybe growing. What about the defenders? Gardner is a 69 at 25. Damn, yeah, a lot of these low leads are not growing the way I want. Lee's up to a 74 at 23. Ackerstrom's not even growing anymore. Watson, 62 at 21. Goalies, Semenov is a 77. He probably should be in the NHL next year, so we'll give him a chance maybe. And then a good rookie year, actually, from Jason Giunta. Good save percentage, good goals against. He's up to a 74 at 21. Okay. Okay, so there might be some guys that make the NHL team next year, which is exciting. In terms of stats around the entire league, the best point getter was Sebastian Aho with 147 points. Rantanen with 141. Dylan Holloway with 139 points. Where did he come from? Where did he come from? Last year he had 103 points too. I didn't even realize that, but wow. He has become kind of an interesting player in this franchise mode. Like, where the heck did this 139 points come from? So shout out to Holloway. He was playing with Svechnikov and Aho, so that kind of makes sense, I guess. DeBrink had 121 points. Jack Hughes 116. A lot of goal scoring this year, looks like. And I didn't even clue in. Mikko Rantanen had a 95-goal season on medium scoring. Jesus. This guy's well over a goal a game. 33 power play goals, which is actually insane, too. What's this guy's, like, game-by-game stats looking like? Like, how much hat tricks did he have this season? Oh my god. He had a 5-goal game. He had a 4-goal game. He had 4 hat tricks, other than those multiple, almost multi-hat tricks. He also had multiple 2-goal games. A lot of 2-goal games, actually, for that matter. Holy crap, he had a ton of 2-goal games. And then he had some 1-goal games as well. Wow. That's actually kind of nuts. Like, split stats, if we look at his stats against us, he had only 2 goals against us in 2 games, so at least we did our job shutting him down. But I'm curious on the month-by-month basis. God damn. I don't think I've ever seen a guy had 95 goals in a season. Let's just sort this. Actually, I can't really sort this. Let's just go month by month, though, anyways. So December, he had 20 goals in 13 games. November, he had 15 goals in 15 games. October, only 5 goals in 8 games. And then April, he had 8 goals, 6 games. March, he had 16 and 14. February, he had 20 and 14. January, he had 11 and 12. That's insane. Wow, 95 goals. And then Matthews had 66. Larmour had 64. Wow. Couldn't we have drafted Larmour? I feel like we could have, but I don't remember what draft he was a part of. 2025, honestly, don't remember. So that's a really interesting season in terms of that. Let's take a look at the Selke candidates here. Let's just sort by takeaways, I guess. I don't know if Ristolainen's going to win it just because his takeaway numbers were lower this year. It could go to Will Smith, potentially. Great takeaways, good face-off stats. Stützle probably as well. I hope Risto wins another one, but I'm not too sure if he will. Best defenseman this season for points was Cale Makar with 90 points. He had also Malachi Roberts already in Toronto with 81. That's the franchise defenseman that won a few years ago. Wow, okay. Drysdale on 80 points. Quinn Hughes is starting to drop off a little bit in production. Okay. Best goaltender for wins was Spencer Knight with 47, as well as Arturs Silovs. Most shutouts, Blomqvist, Ivankovic, and Askarov. That was actually not Askarov, never mind. But Ivankovic simulates really well, apparently. Wallstead with a 919 might be the Vezina favorite. Arturs Silovs. Damn, there's going to be some good goalies going up against for the Vezina. Any goalie goals this season? No. Most assists was Ivankovic with 4, as well as Skinner and Wool. Best rookie of the season was Nicholas Powell, the small guy with big rig, 59 points in Washington. All right, Nishishkin up there as well. All right, so there is that interesting season. Let's find out the award winners and all that stuff and wrap up this year and find out where we're drafting, because obviously where we're drafting is going to be probably still exciting. I don't know what this draft class looks like really, so going to be interesting to see what that's looking like too. Hopefully, like I said, though, that we are able to draft ourselves some good players considering we missed the playoffs. Like, hopefully the draft lottery is somehow on our side. Because sometimes when you miss the playoffs and you're a team that shouldn't miss the playoffs, the draft lottery seems to give you a good chance to get a good player. But honestly, we could stay exactly where we are, and I wouldn't be surprised. Can never really understand how that simulation works with it. All right, so who's going to win the cup in year 10 is the question. Who is going to win the cup? Probably Colorado if Rantanen's going as sane as he is. Or Carolina, my guess. And it's going to be the Dallas Stars. Never mind. Dallas wins the Stanley Cup. Milwaukee winning the AHL. So Dallas winning the Stanley Cup. I felt like they won recently, unless that was in the other series that they won. I honestly don't remember. But who did they beat for the Stanley Cup? The Ottawa Senators. Oh, man, they won in 7 games over them. If I was watching that series in real life, I would have definitely not had a fun time with that. Losing in 7 games in the Cup Finals. That sucks. In terms of the awards, Dallas wins the Stanley Cup for the first time in a few seasons. They won in 2031, so they did win before. Anaheim won the President's Trophy. It was Dallas and Ottawa in the Cup Finals. In terms of individual awards, Aho wins back-to-back Art Rosses. He also wins the Hart. Cale Makar wins another Norris. That's his first in a while, though, because Evan Bouchard had a lot recently. Mikko Rantanen, the Lady Byng. Powell wins the Calder for Washington. Robertson the Conn Smythe for the second time as well. Interesting. Silovs wins the Vezina. Devin Levi wins another Jennings. I think he won it a few years back, but it's been a while, I guess. Bertucci for Columbus wins the Masterton. Sillinger for Seattle wins the Jack Adams. And yeah, Will Smith is going to be the Selke winner. So unfortunately, Ristolainen will not win his 4th this year, but I mean, I don't know if he really even deserved it anyways, because our team was just not super good this year. But yeah, we saw that Will Smith had a lot of takeaways and a good face-off percentage. I expected it to be him. So shout out to Will Smith. slapping the ad award. Sebastian Aho, the Lindsay, and Rantanen, the Maurice Richard. All right. AHL awards. Any awards for our AHL team? Probably not, right? No. Does not look like it. Who is T Pitt? Is it Tiny Pitt or something like that? Like, I don't really know what that guy's name is, but still. So there is the awards. Now we got to find out where we're drafting, and also obviously what this draft class looks like, what the contract situation is going to be like for the offseason, the progress reports. This should be interesting, but I really would have preferred maybe us to be in the playoff spot. But we are going to stay at the 10th overall selection just like last year. Damn, man, that sucks. Winnipeg moves from 3 to 1. The Islanders stay at 2. Pittsburgh falls from 1 to 3. Vancouver at 4. And Calgary at 5. Okay. Well, hopefully we can get a good steal at number 10. In terms of retired players for the season, we're not going to lose anybody on our roster. But around the league, Connor McDavid retires with 2,149 points. And after a 95-goal season, Mikko Rantanen retires. I don't think that should happen in franchise mode, where a guy scores 95 goals in the next season. He's like, hey, man, I'm done playing hockey. I scored a 95-goal year. I'm just going to peace on out. I don't think that should happen. Kucherov also retires. He was just dealt at the deadline we saw. Played 18 games with the Devils. Was under point per game. Playoffs, he was on 5 points only. But I guess the Devils got kind of close to a Stanley Cup. Fiala on 999. Like, why retire with 999 points when you could get 1,000? And then Konechny 989. Like, a lot of these guys came close to 1,000 points. Anthony Duclair on 986. That's actually kind of insane. Sprong on 797. So some interesting retirements this season. In terms of defensemen, the best defender to retire was Charlie McAvoy with exactly 1,000 points. All right. Adam Fox on 996. Wow, so there's some pretty big defenders and forwards retiring this year, so maybe that helps our team out a little bit in terms of maybe getting a better chance to make it back into the playoffs again. And best goalie to retire this year was Jussi Saros with 420 wins. Some other okay goaltenders too. All right, so those are the retirements. Does anybody become coaches? Doesn't seem like it. Did we lose any coaches? Speaking of which, we lost Andre Bonk in the minors. I believe he was a goalie coach, but I can't remember. But we do lose Bonk in Burnaby. So that's one to coach. In terms of draft interviews, I guess I'll do this. Or just look in this at least. That's when we can take a look at this class. So we have the 10th overall selection this year. What can we get around that spot? Can we get any good steals, potentially? So, around our spot, there is Raimo Peltonen, the right winger, who is a Finn. He's 1 year out, apparently, so he's probably pretty similar to the other guy that we were looking at last year. But we can use more right wing help on that bottom six instead of Camilleri, maybe. John Standard as a center. Also looks pretty good. I don't know if he is a top 6 forward or if he's a low elite, but he's also only 1 year out. So those two forwards look interesting. Jackson Howard also looks pretty good 1 year out. All right, so there might be some really solid players at our spot still in terms of overall ranking. Russell Drake even looks good. Not too sure what type of player he is. Afanasenkov is the highest defenseman around our spot. He also looks pretty solid in 1 year out. And is he a DFT or two-way? He's a two-way. I don't really need two-ways too much, but Afanasenkov's kind of good too. Ilya Arkhipov. 3 years out, could be in a medium elite, though. He could be medium elite. Josiah Tripp also looks pretty good 1 year out. This actually might be a really strong draft. Like, if there's guys that are 1 year out and supposed to go 16th. Damn. High top 9 grinder and Molson, he's listed as a bust. But that's still kind of an interesting potential. Cole Volk, not bad as a top 6. Alright, so there's some interesting players here in the first round for sure. Is there anybody for late rounds that are interesting? Let's see. Goaltender and Hentonen. Don't need more goalie prospects, really, to be honest. This guy's a gem. Might be a low lead sniper. He's supposed to go early second round. He's NHL ready. So George Delisle could be a really good steal in that first round, even though he's not supposed to go. Like, he's literally listed as NHL ready. And he's not medium elite for sure, but he could be a low elite or a top 6 forward. He might be just a top 6, but that's still a really good player if he's NHL ready. Devin Dollywall looks pretty bad, but maybe he's an elite player. Can't tell, really. Mathers is an elite goaltender, probably. Is there any low lead steals that are guaranteed? Because I do like myself the low leads. There's a couple. Okay, nice. Caleb Doig, so we would have another Doig on the team. That's actually kind of nice. I don't mind that. It is also a position we could use. There's a low lead two-way defenseman that's listed as a gem in Dwayne Sagan. That's a nice one, too. I'll definitely pin him. So we definitely could find ourselves some good players in this draft, I think, which is good. Hopefully that helps us in the long run. Because we just had to pin a lot of guys. Because around our spot, a lot of guys look almost NHL ready to 1 year out. Then it looks like there's going to be some good steals, too, with Doig and Sagan. And then Delisle, potentially, too, would be a good one. Like, I think it's going to be a good draft for us, at least. But hopefully those type of guys are the players that make our team eventually. All right, final few things we got to take a look at is the progress reports and the contract situations. So let's look at the progress reports first. See if we got any good growth from any good prospects or players on our roster. Looks like some people are having some statistical stuff. And wow, that's interesting. Ristolainen is now actually an exact franchise, so he didn't pan out as an exact elite. That's kind of interesting. I like it. We got a little bit of natural growth from Kim, but looks like most of these guys are kind of dropping off. Like Bogosian's now listed as a third-line scoring forward. So we do need to have a stronger second-line center, potentially. And then Bogosian could be a great third-line guy. Ahinen's kind of getting close. That's nice. Kolar's as a 90. Del Monte is an 85. Capaduca dropped back down to an 80. Damn. Dag is only a 77. Okay, maybe we're not as strong as we look on paper on the offensive side of things. Doig didn't get any growth or any drop-off. That's kind of weird. What about defense? Yeah, I don't really know about the growth on our team, to be honest. It's not the best. What about goalies? Spets is up to an 85. At least that's good. But he has not been stimulating that good. Like, his statistical growth is dropping off. But his natural growth, he's getting a lot of it. And then Del Coley's staying as a 77. In the system, any good growth from this AHL team? Semenov got no growth, so he probably should be a backup next year. Just based on that. Gianta's up to a 73. Erickson up to a 65. Harikala's a 62 now. So at least Harikala seems to be developing nicely. Defensively, Lee's up to a 74. Hurd's up to a 72. He could probably play in the AHL next year, maybe. Gardner up to a 70 at 25. Geisber's a 68. Not really liking the way some of our prospects are developing. Mahalik up to a 64. Watson 62. Like, a lot of these guys that I had good potential just aren't really developing. We need maybe new coaches all over the place. Hennessy up to a 64. That's pretty solid as a medium elite at 20, I guess. Lambert's up to a 75. He's getting pretty close. Bure is 74. Malak is a 67. That's a pretty good first year of growth for him. Peterson is 64. Cashman is 74. Yeah, we might have some guys jump up to the NHL team next season. Corso is 62. Not the best growth, I would say, in our system. Like, there is some good growth, but also there's players that are just, I don't know if they're going to develop fully. All right, final thing, the contract situation. Who's up for renewal this offseason? So, Doig is pretty much the big one. He was getting paid just $4 million, so as an RFA, he wants a 4-year deal at relatively around the same amount of money. So, we probably have to pay him that type of thing. Bogosian is a pending UFA. This is an interesting one. What is he asking? Only a 2-year deal on 5.1. Does have interest in our organization, so there is a chance he could come back, but I'm also kind of worried about our defensive play with him in. Steen's still an RFA, so he probably doesn't want yet too much term. We are definitely going to have to start spending a lot more money in free agency this year, or re-sign stage-wise, I should say. Capaduca wants only 1.925. That's decent for me. Tuilepas is a pending RFA. He also wants a one-way contract. Yeah, a lot of these guys are going to want one-ways. We're probably going to have to start parting ways with guys like Dean Perron and all that. In terms of our goaltenders, what is Spezza asking for? Hopefully he's not asking for too much out of the gate. He wants $8.5 million for 2 years after he's put up below 900 save percentages. Jeez. We'll probably have to qualify him, but he thinks he's going to be a really good goaltender, because apparently in 8 years he thinks he's worth 15.3. That's crazy. That's absolutely absurd. I don't think he's going to be worth that much if he continues to play like this. All right. So there is that, and that's going to do it, guys, for this episode of our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we will take it to the 2034 draft, the year 10 offseason. We'll probably have to make some adjustments in terms of the coaches a bit more, because his team's still not simulating the best, and then obviously we aren't getting the best growth in our system and all that. So I think maybe obviously we need to re-clean house a bit with the coaches a bit in the AHL especially. NHL, obviously we could kind of find the best available, but I don't think we are getting the best out of our team yet, and obviously we kind of want to make it to the playoffs for this next coming season, just because of the fact Stubwitz is going to be becoming a pending UFA soon, and I don't really want to lose him on the fact that we just can't make the playoffs and all that. So let me know down below, and I'll see you guys next time.